Hi everyone, my name is Vijay Sambamurthy. I am the founder and managing partner of Lexigen. We are here to talk to you about our firm, the kind of work we do, and the kind of people we are looking to add to our team. And we're here to talk about our recruitment policies and procedures, not just for law students who are looking to join as freshers, but also for experienced lawyers who are looking to join us as laterals. I have with me also my colleague Kode Raghavan. She is a principal at our firm, and she's been with us since the beginning of her career, and she, joined us through a couple of internships as well. So the way we are going to structure this is we are going to give you a very short PPT. We'll try to keep it as short a PPT as possible, where we will have information. And once the PPT is done, we'll have one of our younger colleagues who has just joined us, fresh out of law school, as in from GLC, Mumbai, and he will, speak for a couple of minutes about his experience, and then we can throw it open for questions. Obviously, the way this is going to work is we will not be able to do, audio questions. But what we have done is we have curated some questions. As you all know, some of you submitted, several of you have sent questions. Thank you for that. We have received a lot of questions on the Google form. And apart from that, we also can take questions live. So, whichever platform you're logging into this from, whether it is Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Twitter, you have the ability to type comments and type your questions there. And we'll take the questions and we'll take as many questions as we can. So, with that, I'm going to dive right into the presentation. Let's run through the PPT very quick, guys. So the firm, a little bit of background on the firm. The firm was founded by me in 2006. So we just completed 15 years as a firm this year in June. And some milestones of the firm: in 2009, we set up our Singapore office. So that office is more focused around, both inbound work into India from the Asia Pac region, and also outbound work from India, where Indian clients are either globalizing or they are making acquisitions. Then, what kind of work do we do? We have a very reputable and global clientele who we do a lot of good work for. And the other thing I'll mention is that we have pan Indian coverage. We can move to the next slide, please. So this is the kind of work we do. You can read it for yourselves. This data is available on our website as well, which is lexigen.law. So we do a lot of fund formation work where we advise sponsors of private equity, venture capital, and hedge funds to set up funds to invest in India. We do a lot of PE/VC investment work, a lot of very good M&A work. Then we have an India entry strategy practice where we, help global companies set up operations in India. That is headed by our partner Amit Vyas. We have a very strong IP practice where we help clients on, trademarks and patents filings work, as well as more importantly on strategy with respect to their IP. We are Bangalore headquartered firm. As you can imagine, we do a lot of TMT work. We represent a lot of clients in this sector, and it's a very inherent part of our practice as well. Our dispute resolution practice is still growing. I won't say that it is one of our mainstays, but the limited work that we do for our clients on the DR side is very high stakes, and it's very cutting edge. Very often we actually do international multi-jurisdictional arbitrations and stuff like that. So that's the kind of DR work we do. Infrastructure projects, again, a very important part of our firm. We do a lot of PPP work. We are not so much into project financing work, but we do a lot of infrastructure focused work, especially in sectors like airports, toll roads, power, metro rail, and so on. Lastly, we also have a strong labor and employment. There are a few other things that we do, which I'm not taking up your time with mentioning, but you can look at our website. You'll get a much deeper dive into our practice areas. Slide, please. So this is an indicative list of our clients. These are all names I'm sure you guys will recognize. All are fairly well known names. So these are some of the corporates that we act for. The next slide has the names of fund clientele of ours. These are some of the funds. Again, those of you that are following the fund industry or who are working as lawyers currently in law firms, you must be very familiar with these names. I hardly need to introduce them to you. Next slide, please. What's in it for you to consider a career with Lexygen? First and foremost, you will get the opportunity to work on very cutting edge type of work. In fact, one of the good things about our firm is that you get thrown into leadership opportunities fairly early on in deals, provided you show you prove your mettle and take the initiative. So that's what we are talking about when we say leadership opportunities. We are talking about taking leadership at various levels in deals. And not just in deals, but very often, even on the management side, we offer a lot. In fact, I would say we are one of the very few firms in India which offer active, management related participation for our people. So if you're somebody who thrives on that, it's we are an excellent fit, and you are probably an excellent fit for us as well. Next slide, please. Compensation structure. This is our compensation structure. We pay fresh graduates fixed pay of about 15 lakhs per annum, and also a bonus which could go up to 1.2 lakhs per annum. The bonus is not guaranteed; it's purely performance driven. It's That's the entry level pay for fresh graduates. And just to give you a sense of the progression, when you get to the SA level, the entry level senior associates, we pay them between 24 to 27 lakhs per annum, and bonus can go up to 15 lakhs per annum at the entry level for SAs. Next slide, please. So, Kodak, do you want to take over from here and talk about what we're looking for in our recruitment process and life
Sure,
at Lexygen?
thanks. Thanks, Vijay. Yeah. So I think many of you would, recognize that these are qualities that probably every law firm is looking for. But we've put down here some skills and some personality traits and characteristics that we find are very important. That we sort of put a lot of weight on, and for people who come into our team. So, of course, to start with your technical and legal skills itself, we, of course, want all of our candidates to have a high degree of interest in our work areas, our practice areas, and to have a good base and a good knowledge of the law as well. Yes, we recognize that if you're coming fresh out of law school from somewhere that doesn't necessarily have courses on some of our key practice areas like PEVC or M&A, it's not necessarily all academically driven. You have to show that you have that interest, right? And you've been sort of keeping a tab on these practice areas, what the regulatory changes are, what's been happening in the market, etc. Then moving on to some of the more soft skills, professionalism, integrity, great work ethic, that goes without saying. We also want, personality wise, for all of our people to be very self driven and very committed to the firm and the firm's growth, right? Not just your career with us, because what we are looking at is for people to enjoy the kind of work that they do at Lexigen and be in it for the long haul. Next slide, please. Yes, so coming to, I think, oral and written communication skills, that goes without saying. The last thing that I do want to touch upon is the what we've written here as compatibility with Lexigen culture. As Vijay mentioned a little bit earlier on, the kind of atmosphere and work environment that we have at Lexigen is very meritocratic, and it's completely non toxic, and we work hard for us to keep it that way. So it's a very important part of our culture for all of us to not just to get along, right? For all of us to work well together and also play hard together. And the last point I also touched upon earlier on loyalty and commitment to the firm. We we don't want to be just on somebody's CV for a year or two. We are definitely looking at building a strong and a good team. Next slide, please. All right. So, life at Lexygen, the first point, which I already did mention before, that we do offer, soft skill training and a lot of management opportunities for our firm members to grow and rise in their career internally through the firm. Open door work culture, especially now in this work from home scenario, I would say that nothing really has changed for us from, although the doors are now virtual through Zoom or through emails, etc. We still have constant connectivity with each other, and to be able to, ask each other questions without feeling like you're competing with somebody else in the firm. Yes, while we do encourage that healthy competition because we want everyone to grow, it's not about it's not about getting ahead at somebody else's cost. The next point is on exploring your interest and probably writing articles or putting out videos on topics that you're interested on. We do have a blog on our website as well that we encourage anyone to write in and submit, even if they may not relate entirely to a deal or a practice area that you're working on. If it's something you're interested in, we encourage your interest in that. We have a very, very strong emphasis on a work life balance. This is and can be quite difficult, and it's something that we all, as individuals and as a firm, have to work on maintaining. So, because of the kind of practice areas that we do work in, the PVC M&A industry can be very, very difficult. You can have very tight deal timelines for us to work in. So, while we do work hard and deliver on what we're promising to our clients, we also try and make sure that everybody's mental health is also at a good and balanced place. And the last point is, again, linking back to our culture, we do a lot of team bonding. So we do have outings and retreats now and then. Certainly, the last year has put a bit of a dampener on our annual retreats, but hopefully, once we're back in office, we'll be able to plan our next retreat as well. And yeah, past destinations that we've been to has been both in India and outside. Next slide, please. Right, coming to our recruitment process for laterals. So we are looking to hire at every level. So the way very briefly, what the process goes into is, once we receive your application, we take a look at your past experience, and if we feel like that's relevant and meets our criteria, we move on to the assessment stage. The assessment stage can vary. Again, it's could be on a case to case basis, but typically the way we do it, our standard is to have an initial round of interview, followed by a written submission, which will give you a topic which may or may not be familiar to you. And we're looking to assess your research skills as well as your drafting skills. And then we'll go into a third round of interviews. So the interviews here could be, we don't necessarily have a separate HR round and a separate technical round. It's sort of a mix of both of those. And the idea is, we're not only trying to gauge your experience and your skills, but also to get to know you and your personality a little bit. And of course, if you pass that assessment, then we do make an offer. Next slide, please. So for freshers, it is slightly different because we only hire freshers through our paid internship program. So we accept applications from your third year onwards in your 5 year law course. And the reason for this is that we want the freshers who apply to us to have some either have completed their corporate course in law school or to have done one or two other corporate internships, right? To have some amount of experience and familiarity with corporate laws. And we typically advise that you apply at least 2 months prior to your preferred period of internship. And so all our internships are assessment internship. As I said, if we offer you an internship, it's because we are looking at potentially recruiting you fresh out of law school. So for that reason, unlike some other firms, we have a minimum period of 6 weeks because we feel that gives us enough time to assess and to share feedback with the interns midway through that process, so that they have the time as well to improve and to show that they meet the standards that we have. And as part of the assessment, of course, interns would be involved in research work. Sometimes we may involve them in drafting work. There have been times, and I've seen this question asked a couple of times on would interns be involved in deals as well. So the answer is yes. Obviously, we allow you to listen in on negotiations and things like that as well. The amount of responsibility would depend on the capabilities of the intern as well. And at the end of the internship, we ask all interns to prepare and present on a legal topic, either of their choice or our choice. Again, there, what we're really looking to gauge is the speaking skills and the level of research into the topic. And I think that brings us to the end of our very, very quick presentation. Uh, for anyone who's just joining us, you can, even if you miss some of it in the beginning, please feel free to ask your questions in the live chat in whatever platform you're watching
Yeah,
on, and we will take your questions from
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Koday. And now I'm just going to request Nikhil to come online. And Nikhil, are you there? Hi, Nikhil.
Hi.
So for everyone's benefit, Nikhil has just joined us from GLC, and with that, I will let him talk about his experience. But Nikhil, we are running slightly late, I think. So if you can just keep it to 2 3 minutes, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll wrap it up quickly. So, as you guys have already mentioned the process quite thoroughly in the presentation itself, I'll just share some snippets from my experience as an intern first and then as an associate now. So,
Hmm.
firstly, the interview itself was quite comprehensive. I'd say it was granted that I hadn't really interned much before, but it was quite comprehensive and like all the questions were very relevant, and I wasn't really rushed through. I was given an opportunity to answer properly if there were any. I had any clarifications to add. So I had a really good experience during the interview. And after that, when I got the offer, I interned for. So I did two internships, as you guys may recall. So both the internships were actually quite research heavy. So as an intern, you can expect more of internship research related work rather than working on transactions as such. Because I guess it will be different when you're actually interning at physically at the office, since you will be on our systems. But what I was told is that since to ensure that the confidentiality of client documents, most of the work will be research oriented and not really in relation to deals, which is quite fair and fair to the clients as well. So that being said, the presentation, and I really like the fact that everyone from the team, every single person joined for the presentation and actively asked questions and engaged with me during the presentation. It was quite fun. And during the second internship as well, I'd say I got more of transactional work, which I really enjoyed. I really like the fact that the areas were really relevant to my interest areas. So though at times the hours get long, I always enjoyed it as an intern as well. And even after joining as an associate, the learning curve has just been really steep. No 2 days are the same. It just seems like every day I'm learning something new, which I really enjoyed. And the transactional work has also been great. And as Koday just mentioned, like everyone, like even the junior most person, is involved on client calls, negotiation calls, and even like I had the chance to get into drafting as well, which I think is quite rare. At least among my friends I know, not everyone is involved at their respective firms in the drafting stage. But I really like the fact that end to end on a deal I get to work on. So that's mainly it. As I said, as Kode had also mentioned, the hours can get long at a bit at times. But yeah, if your interests are aligned with these practice areas, I don't think it will be much of a problem. You'll enjoy the work. That is all I'll say for now. If there are any questions that I can answer, I'll take them up.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nikhil, for that. And with that, I think now let's throw it open for questions. So I will request you guys to ask the questions, and we can decide who will answer the questions based on the question itself.
Sure,
Okay.
Vijay. So, first question we have is, given that Lexigen has specializes in various different practice areas, can students with internship experience in non-relevant fields apply? So, I assume this references to if ours is their first corporate experience from an internship perspective,
Mhm.
how would we consider their application?
Sure. That's a great question. And, the simple answer is it depends in which year you're doing that. If you're a third year law student and applying for an internship, it's absolutely fine that you haven't done any corporate internships, even if you've only done litigation. If you otherwise, impress us through the, CV and stuff that you've done and your interview, we will certainly be open to offering, a chance to somebody like that. But if somebody who's in almost in the end of their fourth year, which is where the bulk of our interns come from, if they don't have even one relevant internship and all the work they've done is pretty much on completely unrelated stuff, then I mean, never say never, but I would assume that would be very difficult to justify granting an internship to somebody who's in the fourth or fifth year who doesn't have any relevant work in past internships. But we can certainly consider that for third years.
Thanks
Okay,
for that. Go ahead, please, Nikhil.
thanks. Vijay. I'll ask the next question. So someone has asked us, if we are rejected, would you give us feedback on our CV or application? And also, how long do I have to wait before I can reapply?
So I think I
Okay,
can probably answer this question
go
as I've
ahead.
been quite involved in the internship process,
Absolutely.
right? So I think one of the obviously, like we said, we have different criteria whether you're an intern or a lateral who is applying to us. uh, Main criteria of which we like to see what sort of experience you have either in your past internships or your past work experience, right? And if we feel that our practice areas would end up being very, very unfamiliar or something completely new to you, then we may not be able to consider your application and take it to the next stage of interview, right? So while we do try, and it'll be very, very difficult for us to specifically and individually reply to each person explaining why their application has been rejected. But typically, if you do get a rejection from us, it would be on account of, us having probably either received other applications from people who have more relevant experience than you, or we just don't feel like you have enough experience at this time in our practice areas for you to apply to us. And the question on how long do you have to wait before reapplying, the answers really there is quite simple. If you're keen on our practice areas on the kind of work that we do try and get some experience in that field. And for somebody who's trying to apply for an internship, yes, it can be hard to sort of find internships at other firms that specifically in their PEVC teams. So we are not necessarily looking at you have to have done some deals before. Even if you're able to show us that you're interested in this, you've maybe written some articles or some blogs that relate to this field, that would help showcasing to us that this is a field that you're interested in, that you've looked at before, and that you have some familiarity with.
Absolutely. If I may just add one line to it, I think it's fair to say we receive a lot of applications, and our selection rate for internships is quite low, right? And remember, guys, this is the only channel or only avenue through which we recruit freshers. So we have to be selective. So what that means very often is that who is not getting picked is not necessarily bad as an applicant, but there is someone who was deemed to be better or more suited. And very often that's the choice we have to make. And so, yes, so there is no simple answer to how long you should wait. I think you need to understand why. And yes, it would be nice to give feedback, but again, it's not feasible, right? It becomes very difficult to provide detailed feedback. And I mean, we can do it in an automated way. It's not a very honest or sincere way, in my view, because if feedback has to be given, the feedback has to be meaningful and there has to be time taken to give it. Trust me, I know that it takes time to give feedback. We take feedback very seriously when we give it or when we receive it. So it takes time to give feedback, and usually the reason is that your experience has not been matched up. And the one thing I will say is, don't let that dishearten you. Keep in touch, and very often it has happened that we have hired people who we did not make offers to when they interned with us, but subsequently we have found ways to work together where they've come on board after working somewhere else for a few years. The race is long, the journey is long. There is no need to get disheartened just because you didn't get a job today. That's how I put it.
Thanks, Vijay. Next, we have a couple of questions that are sort of two-pronged question. One is, if you are a student from a non top 5 NLU, do you have a fair shot at securing an internship, or do you have different criteria for students from non NLUs? And the second related question is, does the stipend of law students, and I assume that laterals will also be interested to know if their pay would vary in accordance with which college you're from or which year of academic year you are in.
Okay. So I don't know. What should I say? We only hire from National Law School because that's where I went and got my degree. Of course not. I mean, we don't care, honestly. We absolutely, truly don't care which law school you went to. Uh, and it is true that we have people from many different law schools who are working for us, and not just working for us, who are doing really well. So that is a non-factor for us, whether you went to an NLU, non-NLU, whether your college is in Bangalore or Timbuktu. We don't care. We just focused on your application, your suitability. That's it, nothing else.
And to just put this in perspective, right? Nikhil, like we introduced him before, is from GLC. So again, we have non-NLU secured an internship with us, went through our two internship process and got a PPO. And like Vijay said at the very beginning, I myself joined Lexigen as a fresher. So I also went through the internship process and got my placement offer from Lexigen. And I've been with Lexigen for 8 years now, and I'm from Christ University. So that's also non-NLU. So yeah, we absolutely do not have any criteria, and even in terms of pay grades, stipend for interns or otherwise, no discrimination whether you're from an NLU or not.
Absolutely. And conversely, I won't say that there is discrimination against also. It's not like we don't welcome top
Yeah.
NLU applicants. We just don't count that as a factor. Okay.
Okay,
What is the
thanks for
next
that.
question?
Yeah, I'll read out the next question. So someone has asked, are the internships virtual?
Well, Nikhil, you can answer that question.
Yeah, currently all our internships are virtual, and since we all are working from home, everyone since last year. In fact, I mean, I joined late, but yeah, we haven't opened the firm. We hadn't opened it between the first and second waves, and we still haven't opened it, and we haven't even discussed about it yet. Depending on the situation, we might reach a decision soon, maybe. But at present, all internships are virtual, and all associates are working remotely as well.
Thank you, Nikhil. Okay.
Okay. Another question. Are internships provided to people who are pursuing their LLM or pursuing a 3 year LLB course?
Again, very short answer. We don't care. We don't discriminate whether you are. We presume if you got an LLM that you got an LLB somewhere from a recognized valid course. So as long as you are, duly qualified, we are not going to be prejudiced because you're an LLM, but you need to be good enough. That's the only thing we focus on.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'll take. Okay, should I read out the next question, Corey?
Yeah, please
Sure,
go
sure,
ahead.
please.
Nikhil.
So again, a question from a student. I have college courses till 10 or 11 a.m. every day. Can I apply for internship during this period? If not, why? I think this is someone from GLC.
Sounds like it. Even I was thinking the same thing, right? Except they asked for complete paralegalship kind of a thing, right? Not intern. They work through the year. But yeah, so the short answer is we wouldn't mind if a GLC existed in Bangalore, where physically you can do it in normal times. We can definitely consider that right now because we are all working from home. But if we are in a time when most of us are working from the office, it could be a bit challenging to have somebody working on this model. The advantage of GLC, as I've always said, is that they enable their students to work for a better part of the day. So by 10 o'clock, their college is done and they can straight up, and they're located in South Bombay. So most of them can go and intern, right? So that's a great system. But unfortunately, most law schools don't seem to follow it. But yes, we can definitely consider that. We don't do a lot of that. I won't claim that we do a lot of that. I can recall two people that we have offered that model to. So we can definitely consider that. Okay.
But it'll be very much on a case by case basis.
Yeah, it will be totally on a case by case basis. Absolutely.
I
Okay.
think we have quite a few viewers from the 2022 batch. So there's a
Okay.
question on what are the recruitment prospects for batch of 22 and are we open to offering assessment internships to them?
See, maybe Koda, you can answer that question, but one high level point I would make is the reason I'm saying Koda, you can answer that question is I don't have the data on how many internship slots have been filled up or not for till 2022. But I would assume, based on past track record, that it would probably be unlikely that we may be able to accommodate anybody for 2022. But like I said, never say never. And Kode, maybe you can answer that in a little more specific way based on how many slots we have left.
Yeah, so I think you're pretty spot on, Vijay. In fact, probably the last few slots that we did have was for the Jan Feb period, for which we've already had applications coming in, which we've been considering and which have been filled up.
Sure.
So again, going back to our like fresher recruitment process, typically it's very very rare. I wouldn't say it's unheard of, but it's very rare for us to make an offer after just one internship.
Yeah.
Even though we have like a 6 week internship policy, usually it takes us a second internship before we are willing to commit and make that offer. And so at this stage, it's maybe a little bit late for 2022 batch.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks,
I
Koda. Next question.
Yeah, I'll read it out. So the next question is: while working as an associate in other top tier law firms, we usually don't get to take lead and would have to play a smaller role in the transaction. How is it different in Lexigen?
Okay, so I will answer this. It is not too different, to be honest with you, because as Nikhil mentioned, a lot of the work, probably I'm not sure how it is different. I don't want to talk about other law firms because I'm not familiar how much of involvement they give their interns. I don't want to go into that. I'll talk about what we do and don't do. We certainly involve our interns in calls. We don't try to be, unless the deal itself is ultra secretive and the client has a lot of sensitivity around who gets on the call. We generally, allow the interns to be on calls and stuff like that. But we generally don't make them client facing because our first and foremost duty and responsibility is to our clients. So we cannot risk from a quality standpoint sending some work directly from an intern to a client, or even have an intern email a client directly to say, this is what it is, because we have certain internal processes of how we operate from a client quality control perspective. So therefore, the answer is you will not get. If your question is, can I do client facing tasks in an internships? It is possible, but extremely low. You can attend a meeting if you consider that client facing, but it is not very likely that you will be sending products out, written products out, or communicating directly with clients. That would be very unlikely. But if you get in and become a first year associate, if you show us that you're capable of mature communication and responsible communication along with good quality work, then absolutely you can start doing client facing stuff very early on. That is definitely a big differentiation, because I know for a fact that when we work on transactions, we do put a lot of our young people out there who have earned their stripes.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Nikhil can probably attest to that as well, right?
Yeah, correct.
He's just joined us this year, and I think he's already been knee deep, and
Yeah.
sometimes in a client facing role as well.
He's just being modest. He doesn't want to talk about himself.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next question, please.
Yeah, so we have some questions from either graduates who currently are not working, or
Okay.
laterals who are looking to move from a non PEVC or a non corporate role into a corporate one. And
Okay.
the question is that, with a commercial litigation profile, for example, or if you're a fresh graduate who has, not doesn't have any work experience yet, would we consider them for our firm?
See, unfortunately, for slight, we can most certainly consider you if you're 6 months into the profession, you joined a litigation firm, and you figured you want to do corporate law, and you have the passion. We can consider, but there again, we would not directly offer you a job because you don't have any relevant experience on which we can even conduct an interview and test you. But in such cases, what we can do is we do, offer a paralegalship kind of an arrangement where there is no guarantee of a job offer at the end of it. You're taking a chance and working with us for 2, 3 months. At the end of that, if you're happy with where we think you're going, we definitely do make an offer, and we have done that. So that's not something we are, not open to doing. That's something we do. But I have to say, in all candor, we are less likely to do that with somebody who's a little more into the profession. Say, if you're 1.5, 2 years on into the profession, and you say that you want to make a switch, don't get me wrong, I am all for it personally. If you want to make a switch at any stage in your career, you should go for it. But it becomes very difficult for an organization like ourselves because of the kind of work that we do and the specialization that it takes. It's very difficult to take somebody who's from a completely unrelated background and put them in a junior position where they are kind of reporting to people junior to themselves. Now, it is difficult because we have seen that it causes problems. People don't want people feel awkward. The junior people feel awkward about being giving them feedback and correcting them, and they feel bad that they are behind in the process. So it generally is not a very optimal model in my view. So therefore, we don't do it. But certainly, we do it with the younger in the profession kind of people. Like I said, less than 1 year is ideal. If we can definitely consider, but not a direct offer. It will be more based on that paralegalship, which will convert into a job offer if you do that. Okay.
Thanks, Vijay. So the next question is, what is the primary focus area while conducting the interviews? So maybe we can touch on both as internship interviews and also for lateral hires.
Okay. So, Kode, do you want to take that? I will jump
Sure.
in and add whatever, but why don't you go ahead?
Sure. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we don't have a separate HR round and a separate technical round. So what we look for in the interview, I would say, is a few things. Number one, we are looking at what your past experience is. So if you're applying for a lateral position, then obviously we're looking at your past work experience. How much responsibility have you had? How involved in deals have you been? If you say that you're primarily done diligences but you haven't really done documentation, that's not necessarily going to be a deal breaker, but we want to gauge and judge your skill level of of the diligences as well. What kind of transactions have you done diligences for, etc. And for an intern, we are going to look at your past internship experience and see, as well as we may also test some of your academics on, particularly on the Companies Act and things like that, if you've finished your corporate course. Second thing I would say that we look at is we're also trying to gauge your personality or your confidence levels. Are you actually able to answer the questions that we throw at you? Whether you know them or not, are you being honest with us, or are you just
Yeah.
trying to push your luck in the interview? And the third question is, based on all of that, to try and see if you would be a fit to the Lexigen family, right? As we said, culturally, the kind of people that we're looking for are, professional, friendly, who not very sort of arrogant or aggressive or anything like that, because all of this translates. How you speak to us would also translate ultimately to how you represent the firm in front of a client. So those are some of the broad things that we look at during interviews.
Okay. Next question, please.
Yeah, so there's a question on the Lexigen blogs or papers, since I mentioned that during the presentation.
Hmm.
So I think the question seems to be that can somebody who is not from Lexigen, right? So somebody who's either still a student or lateral working somewhere else, contribute to the Lexigen blog?
Unfortunately, no. It's a blog meant for Lexygen people. So it is meant to be a platform for, I mean, yes, once you become a part of Lexygen, once you are an associate, there is no restriction on how many blogs you can write. There is no restriction on, it's not like you have to work with the firm for X number of months or years. Anybody can write a blog, but outsiders cannot because of various reasons. So we have to keep it as an inside blog.
Yeah, and to add, if you're interning with us, you can certainly write a blog.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
during your time at Lexigen, you can write
absolutely.
those.
Yeah.
There's a question about our Singapore offices. So
Okay.
someone has asked, while they're not familiar with Singapore law, how does the Singapore office work, and would an international transfer be possible for an Indian lawyer?
So, not very likely in the near. It depends. Again, if you're a very fresh out of college kind of a graduate, it may not happen. It'll happen, but we don't do transfers per se. But what we do is we send people on stints. We can do that because for various reasons it becomes difficult from a compliance perspective to send somebody. And our general approach with that office has been that if we want to put somebody there, we'll have them hired locally and placed there. It's just easier for us to do that than send somebody here with the paperwork. But it's not like this is a cast in stone policy. We we will just keep evolving this staffing policy for Singapore as we grow. But for now, we have not generally done transfers from India. We have done it. I'll correct that. We have done it several years back, but that turned out to be a bit of a compliance nightmare for us. So we have taken a decision since then to kind of keep the recruitment local.
Okay, thanks,
Yeah.
Vijay. I'll
And
take the.
just to,
Yeah,
sorry,
Gaurav.
Nikhil, just to add to that, we just want to make it very clear that at the Singapore office, it's not like we are practicing necessarily only Singapore law or anything like that. We are actually
In
registered.
fact, in fact, we are not
It's the
practicing Singapore
opposite.
law because we are
Yeah.
not allowed to practice. So we are a foreign law firm. We are registered as a foreign law practice (FLP). So we are essentially like any other foreign law firm in Singapore. We are there to serve our clients either inbound or outbound
Yeah.
on non-Singapore law matters. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Vijay. I'll read the next question. So the next question is someone is asking what is the work-life balance like at Lexigen?
Okay. I don't know if I should be the one answering the question. One of you should probably answer the question.
Yeah, I think Nikhil, since you've just joined us, do you want to talk about how much of a shock it's been for you to move from college to work, and what do you think of our work-life balance?
Yeah, and I'll also request you to add in after that,
Yeah,
Kodak, because so they can get perspectives at two different levels.
yeah, absolutely.
Nikhil, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so considering that my college education wasn't really that hectic, so for me, it was a bit of a, I'd say the internship was a bit hectic, but I got used to it. It helps if you are interested in the practice areas, that does certainly help. And though I won't say that, it's not a 9 to 5 job for sure, but yeah, people are considerate and the work is divided quite well amongst everyone in the team, and people do help out. So I didn't really find it that difficult. Okay, there will be a few long days, and there will be a few bad days when you hate your job sometimes, but it's just that those have been few and far in between. So as long as the overall bigger picture looks great, and I just like the fact that the people are so good that sometimes the long hours don't really bother that much, as long as everyone is working in good humor and as long as the work is good. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say that if someone has any health conditions who can't work, put in those long hours, or is just generally not inclined to do it, then maybe we won't be a good fit for them. But yeah, overall, as much as it's possible, I'd say that everyone, all the seniors and everyone in the team, is respectful of personal time, irrespective of what level you're working at.
Thank you, Nikhil.
Yeah.
Kodak?
So just to jump in and add, I think one of the things Nikhil touched upon is basically teamwork, right? That's one thing that's really really important to us, is that if somebody has something that's either a personal emergency or whatever, or if they're just sick or something, we do make sure to respect that they need the time off, and the idea is that the team will band together and pitch in, right? So open and honest communication about that is always important. I would say working, as at a much senior level, when you're running a lot of deals. So, I mean, we're primarily doing PVC M&A transaction related work, right? There is always going to be deal pressure either from the client or from, internally from the deadlines that we set ourselves. uh, and our number one selling point is that we want to ensure that we are responsive to our clients, and we are not just, buying time for the sake of buying time, and pushing deals, right? So yes, there is going to be deal pressure, but we expect everyone in the team to sort of pull their own weight and manage their own time. So you're not going to have, a partner or your senior, sort of micromanaging your time for you. Deadlines will be discussed with the team member who has to give the deliverable and then communicate it to the client. And so, we try and make sure the deadlines are not unrealistic, right? Because as Vijay said, our number one priority is the quality of the work that we put out. So
Yeah,
we do want to make sure, especially if we're staffing somebody junior to generate a draft or something, that that does get reviewed for quality before it gets sent out. So that's how we internally always make sure everyone's talking to everyone to set those deadlines before they're communicated. So I will say, like, yes, there will be some weekends that you have to work or some holidays that you have to work. That's just impossible to avoid in the transactional practice.
yeah,
But we really go out of our way to make sure that each and every one of us, gets, that weekend or get the time off,
yeah,
that you need to maintain that balance.
absolutely. Thanks, Kode. I will also add in a little bit. You guys have spoken more from a perspective of your own experiences, but I'm going to just state this from point of view of what my vision was when I set up the firm. So when I founded the firm in 2006, my guiding philosophy in everything was that we should be a balanced firm. Balanced, right? That was a key attribute for me, that I wanted to build a firm that was not obsessed on one metric over the others. What does that mean? That means that the only metric on which, if you were to be assessed and your pay determined only on the basis of how much you bill and recover, that would be excessive obsession with one metric. So, what we do, for example, is of course, we take that into account, but we also take into account a bunch of other factors, including very subjective ones like how are your interpersonal skills, how are you as a mentor to your juniors, how are you to work with, are you a team player, all those things. So, the work-life balance question, why I'm mentioning this, is that in everything that we do, we try to introduce this essence of balance in how we are doing it, and it is the same when it comes to the work-life balance question. Both work and life are important, and actually speaking, I will say work and life are not at odds with each other. Okay, they are quite harmonious in my view. It's very important for everyone to not get too taken up with one or the other. I think if you want to take life too easy, there's nothing wrong in that. But then a transactional law firm is not maybe the right choice. Similarly, if you get too obsessed with your work that you don't have a life outside office, then we believe that it affects how you function as a lawyer. Because we are not machines, we are people, we have to deliver as people. So, apart from the technical aspects of what we do, we need to be happy inside to be able to deliver quality work. We strongly believe in that.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Vijay. I think we have a one more question coming from potential candidates who, when we answered the virtual internship question, which I'll
Hmm.
just quickly take and answer, is if we
Okay.
intern in April or May, is there a chance of getting a physical internship? So the answer to that, quite frankly, is we don't know yet. We have
Hmm.
not yet made the decision to reopen our offices, and go back to working from office.
Okay.
That's a decision that we will make. I mean, we're sort of playing it by ear to see what the situation is. And so that's a decision we will know closer to that time.
Sure. I agree.
Then we
Okay.
have another question on how should one prepare for a interview.
Who wants to take this?
Okay, maybe for the
Nikhil.
internship part, I
Nikhil.
can take it, and for lateral.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Nikhil.
Yeah.
What
So,
was your secret? Let's personalize the question, right?
Yeah.
What was your secret sauce? What did you do to land the internship?
oh, I'd say it was a whole lot of luck, I guess, but it just so happened that I was actually really interested in private equity. I've been like not just the legal aspect, but also I've always been interested in startups and the business world around it. I've always been a Shark Tank fan as well, but I just
Okay.
failed on the legal part. So luckily, most of my internships had been in PE and M&A practices, and I did a fair bit of DD as well, and also I had a look at the documentation. So I just didn't stop it there. After the internships were done, I used to, like, during the internship, whatever I used to find interesting but didn't have the time to go through, I used to make notes, and afterwards I used to research upon it on my own time. So I'd say that really helped during the interview, because I remember that, the interview was not just about what are the various provisions, or like, the questions didn't just stop at what, but also the why behind it. And I'd say that the first thing is that I hadn't experienced that at any previous interview, and here I think that helped. And so the interview for at least students will be mostly CV based if your internships are in the PEVC area, and if not,
Okay.
then the questions may be in that area. But yeah, you should be familiar with those. Whatever you are putting in your CV, basically you should know the in and out of that. And as Koday and you have already said, our practice areas, that is what we're focusing on.
Sure.
So I'd say those things.
Thanks, Nikhil.
Yeah.
Next question. Yeah.
The next question is again a very specific question on our Singapore office. Is
Okay.
it primarily for fund related compliance 13XR, or is it more broad in its functioning?
Is the question fund related or fund related?
Fund hyphen related. So,
Fund hyphen. Okay. Okay. So the answer is no. Yes, we do funds work. Yes, that was one of the when we set up the office. It was one of the three streams of work that we were focusing on, and it continues to be important. But it has become, relatively speaking, less important after the tax treaty benefits went away. The capital gains tax exemption, which was there, was taken away by the Indian government. So after that, there has been, I won't say it has been a complete drop, but there has been somewhat of a reduction in new funds there. But always, we have also been doing other streams of work there. M&A is a big one. We do a lot of inbound as well as outbound M&A. So what does that mean? Basically clients from the region doing acquisitions of Indian companies, or clients from India making acquisitions in the region. So we've been active with that. And of course, there's also been a lot of venture capital and private equity work, because several Indian companies also have global holding companies. So so that's another stream of work where we are advising companies as well as funds on those kind of transactions. So yeah, everything that we do here, we do in Singapore as well.
thanks, Vijay. So, just a quick reminder, I think we're coming close to an hour since we've been live. If anyone has any more questions, please do post them in the chat now, and we'll try to
So,
get through all
Corey,
of
have
them.
we taken up all the questions that have come through the Google Forms as well?
Yeah, most of them we have, yeah.
Most of them,
Quite a
yeah.
few
Okay.
repetitive questions, so I think we
Understood.
have
Understood.
answered them
Sure.
as well. I think a couple of questions from people who maybe missed the initial 10-minute presentation, asking about, is the interview the only way? Is it based on CV, and what the compensation is? So just to quickly recap the hiring process is, yes, we do look at your CV. Your CV is essentially your application along with your cover letter and whatever else you choose to send us, which could be your writing sample or anything else. And we decide to move ahead with the interview stage, which is stage two, based entirely on the CV. And for internships, it would just be one interview where we are, like Nikhil said, trying to gauge whether everything that you have worked on, do you know about it, have you continued to maybe keep track of the legal developments in that area, etc. And for laterals, we are looking at what your experience has been. And with respect to the compensation, maybe you can sort of go back and watch this. This will be up as a video on our YouTube and Facebook platforms. So essentially, for fresh graduates, so that is A0 level, it starts at 15 lakhs per annum. And we've also mentioned that our entry level SA, which is the SA1 level, would be between 24 to 27 lakhs.
Yeah, and these are fixed compensation numbers. There would also be bonus, which for entry level will be up to 1.2 lakhs per annum. And for SA entry level, it could go up to 15 lakhs per annum. Okay.
Okay, thanks. I read the next question. So someone has asked whether Lexigen would consider any permanent work from home arrangements.
Okay. I keep asking that question to myself all the time. And, the funny thing about Lexygen is that, you know, I am the bad guy that's holding the firm in WFH mode. So most people are like, really keen to go back to office. At least that's the sense I'm getting. But we have not worked from office even a single day since March 10th, 2020. So we have been on complete WFH mode, but that's because we felt that it was not safe to go back to office. But having said that, there are a couple of times in the past where we have considered going back to office. So are we likely to permanently work from home for everybody? Very unlikely, because we have not let go of our office. We pay over the last 1.5 years. We've been paying, rent on that office without using it at all. So the reason for that is we do believe an office adds value. While obviously work from home can be very convenient and in the circumstances safe, it definitely we are all we have done our best to keep it as good as the real thing, but we all acknowledge that we are missing some aspects of the real thing. I mean, there is no replacement of the physical touch, of the personal touch, being in person, going out. And Kode and Nikhil talked about the collegial aspects of life at Lexigen. uh, Frankly speaking, all of us, myself included, miss that. We miss, going for a drink or going for a, meal together. We miss the banter. We miss making fun of each other, pulling each other's legs. That's all what makes, professional life fun. So that is something we miss. So we may not do away with the office. That is the reason we have spent the money and kept the office all these months, 1.5 years to be precise. But what we may consider, and I won't say that we have taken a decision on it, it's something which we are internally talking about, and we have been talking about it a few times, but we've not really reached any sort of a conclusion, is we may offer people the choice to work maybe X number of days a week from home. We have always been that way flexible in the sense that we don't, yes, we want some basic discipline in the office, but we don't get annoyed with people if they come a little late, if they've been working late the previous night, or even if they've been working late after they went home, right? I mean, there are many occasions when we go home and then we get on a call at 10 p.m. We all know that the person has worked, so we anyway don't, in normal times when we are working fully from office, we are not very fussy. Yes, we do, if some people are taking advantage of that trust and uh, you know, regularly coming late, we may have a conversation with them, but it's not really a big issue that we face often in our office. We have a very, we have a model where we expect people to own responsibility. But yes, when people cross the boundaries, we have to step in. We do take that action. But coming back to the WFH question, therefore, because we've always had a culture like this, it may not be that difficult for us as an organization to consider offering uh, partial work from home. Like I said, maybe 1 or 2 days a week. Whether it should be one or two, etc., we'll have to discuss. But my personal, uh, are we still on? Yeah, I'm sorry, I blanked out for a minute, I think. But my personal view on WFH is that it's definitely worth trying at least at a hybrid model even after we go back to work. But equally, I think working from office is going to continue to be an important, part of our firm because that's the bit that we miss now. Hanging out together, having discussions, going to the whiteboard and having a discussion, drawing a structure chart. That's the bit all of us are missing right now.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay.
Okay, I think we've covered all the questions. We don't seem to have any more questions coming in.
Is that right? Okay. So it doesn't look like there are any more questions. And I think we have covered the Google Form questions as well, at least the ones that didn't overlap. So I think, okay, there is a quick question. I see a question from somebody asking if there is a difference between paralegalship and internship. Yes, there is a difference. Internships are offered to students. Paralegalships are typically offered to law graduates. So the example which I gave earlier, which you may have missed, let's say got out of law school, joined a firm, worked there for 6 months, not very relevant experience, or even if you had relevant experience, may not be very useful because you were just doing one part of it because you were just part of a team. And so what we do in such cases is if we find you good, if we after talking to you, if we find that you could be a fit, then we may offer a paralegalship, which is basically like it's a slightly one step higher than an internship because internships are for not they are for law students, and paralegalships are for qualified lawyers who don't have enough experience but who we are trying out to see if they are a good fit. That's the difference, and there is a pay difference between interns and paralegals as well for that reason.
Yeah. And there's
Okay.
one more question that has come in, which I think is worth addressing as well. The question is, could a
Mhm.
third year student intern in the IP TMT team? So
Mhm.
just one point I think, Vijay, you could touch on is, we don't really have a team's
For IP.
segregated teams
Yeah.
work culture in
Yeah,
general.
yeah. So absolutely, as a firm, we've always followed this approach that everybody will do everything. So because we don't dabble in too many things, we are already a fairly focused firm in our practice areas. So we think that it will be beneficial to our people and to our clients if we give people broad-based exposure. So many of you may see in some of in most firms that you get slotted into a team and pretty much that's all you do. Some firms have a policy of rotating you, so we don't even need to rotate you because you're rotating from the from day one by default. So your typical day you may be doing an ROC filing, MCA filing in the morning. You could be working on a DD in the afternoon, and you could be filing a trademark application in the evening, right? So that's how it is, and we expect everybody to do everything. So culturally speaking, that's how we work. So IP TMT teams, your question of whether a third year intern, like we said, we do take, but generally we avoid taking third year interns till they have done corporate law because we find them to be more useful after they have done so. But if you are looking to specialize as an IP or a TMT lawyer, then Lexygen is probably not the right firm for you because we are not a specialist IP TMT firm. It will be that you will get that work, but that's not the only work you'll do.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 If there are no more questions, I think we'll wrap it up here.
Absolutely. I want to thank every one of you, whether you are a law student or an existing practicing lawyer. Thank you for making the time to attend this session. We are really honored that you could make it. We hope that you found this session useful. Please to stay in touch with us. If you need to know periodically what we are up to, please follow us on our social media. I think, I mean, not that we are extremely active or anything, but whenever something happens, we put it up on our LinkedIn usually, and also on Facebook, YouTube, etc., and Twitter. So depending on what platform you dig, please follow us if you would like to know about what's going on. But again, thank you very much. I hope the responses were useful. And all the very best to all of you with your careers. Thank you so much for making the time. Bye and have a wonderful weekend. Bye.